Good evening, all. So, we are back again after the series of our CAT sessions with Dhrubajyoti sir. So, we had 7 or 8 sessions of CAT. CAT is now over. The answer keys are also being uploaded, and it's time for the reality check. Now, to move on with next is ZAT, which is scheduled in January. So the ZAT registration, it was earlier done. The last day for ZAT registration was for 30th November. Now it has been extended till 10th of December. So for those who are yet to fill up the registration, there are only 2 days left with you. So just complete the ZAT registration, and we are back with those ZAT session with Dhrubajyoti sir. So without wasting any further time, over to you, Dhrubajyoti sir.
Right, thank you. Uh, Hi everyone. I always love taking that sessions because it gives me a sense of going back because this was the paper I had cleared for myself when I was preparing for my MBA. What we are going to do today, so I divided this session into two parts actually. As Suchandra rightly pointed out, that last date for ZAT was 30th of November. So when I was planning this session in the beginning, I was thinking of giving Gyan about ZAT, but since we have got some breather and ZAT has extended the date, I decided to take a little bit of time in discussing whether one should actually even apply to that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take first 2 minutes in just discussing whether we are really actually even applying to that, because I know that many people have not applied till now. So let's just quickly do it. uh 10th is the last date. I wrote it tomorrow for the simplest reason that Sunday there are a lot of exams, and therefore you might be busy and you should not wait for Sunday to come to write the test. So therefore what I thought is let's keep a target of tomorrow, and therefore tomorrow is the last date for applying to that. Question is it worth it? Okay. So apart from the colleges and etc that I will discuss anyway, let me put it this way, that anybody who has not the response sheet is out and you know where you stand in CAT. So if by chance CAT was not as you thought it would have been, uh, there is a host of colleges which take that score also apart from CAT. I have, in this PPT, I have given a list of schools which take that score, apart from obviously XLRI and XIM Bhubaneswar, which are the top colleges exclusively through that. But apart from that, for Goa Institute of Management, XISS Ranchi, Great Lakes Institute of Management, IMI all the campuses, IMT all the campuses, Institute of Rural Management Anand, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Maika, TAPMI. These are some of the very good colleges, and there are a lot of names that are there on the ZAT website. But I just thought of picking up the ones which are very popular, and uh, we discuss it very commonly among all the business aspirants, business school aspirants in India. They all take ZAT score, and if you are scoring anywhere between 50 to 80 percentile in mocks right now while preparing, then these colleges you get a second shot through that. Okay, so therefore whether you should apply to that, my clear and straightforward recommendation will be that don't even think about it. It's a godsend opportunity in literal terms, and therefore by tomorrow I think you should definitely apply to that, because if you don't apply to Z, you miss out on these colleges, plus obviously XLRI, which is one of the finest campuses and college in Asia, not only in India, and obviously XIM Bhubaneswar, which is again a fantastic college to go. So, do apply. If you have any questions in your mind, whether cat is whether that is difficult than cat, whether it is going to be like cat 2023, how do I prepare, and so on and so forth, we will discuss that in the next 45 minutes or so. uh, let's go one by one. Let's first of all talk about what is the syllabus. So now interesting part of the story is that cat happens cat, as you know, happened in three sections here. uh, well, while there are three sections and etc., but that interestingly has two parts. Okay, and I will explain you what is these two parts. Part one is verbal and logical ability. Then there is a section called decision making, and then there is a section called quantitative ability and data interpretation. Part two has questions on general knowledge, and then there is an essay writing that is involved. Okay, now first of all, let me clarify one thing. There are a lot of websites which are giving lot of information about how many minutes you will get in that, and what is how many minutes are there in the first part, how many minutes are there in the second part, how many questions will be there. Let me first of all tell you that uh, the exact structure, I'll talk about a general structure obviously, but the exact structure of that is not known till the time you reach the exam hall and you open the exam, because Z very clearly has always kept the exact structure in terms of number of questions, sections, and etc. uh, Not an open thing, not a public thing till the day of the exam. Okay, but however, what we have more or less seen is that generally the paper is altogether of approximately uh, 3 hours to 3 hours 15 minutes or something like that. That is comprising of both the parts, out of which this part, that is the part one, is approximately anywhere between 2 hours 45 minutes to 3 hours, uh, and the rest part is anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Okay, now therefore, again, just reminding you that I'm being very clear that I don't know exactly how many minutes will be there in the first part and how many minutes will be there in the second part, but chances are that, as I said, so if you can understand that somewhere around 165 minutes, you can take it as 165 to 170 minutes, and this will be 20 to 30 minutes. That's how the paper had been in the last 5 6 7 years. Okay, uh, if I talk about number of questions, approximately 75 to 90 questions in the first part, and approximately 25 questions of general knowledge and one essay. Okay, last year they actually gave three choices and you had to choose one topic out of those three choices, but that's how it is. Okay, now what is this part one and part two, and how does it differentiate and etc. What the Z website says is that for getting a call from XLRI, okay, just being shortlisted for the GDPI call of XLRI, only this part score is taken. Okay, this is only for XLRI and all the other allied institutions score. Okay, so if you want to get shortlisted for the group activity, the interview part for XLRI or any other institute, then only part one score is taken into account. However, during the XLRI and only the XLRI interview stage, uh, depending on the score, they sometimes may play a part in the final selection process, in terms of they get asked in the interview. I have seen people being asked if your essay was very good or also very bad, if your general knowledge was poor. In the interview room, they actually ask that did you not understand what is the topic of the essay, why did you write such bullshit essay, and so on and so forth. And I'm using the word bullshit because it was actually asked to one of my students. that did you not understand the topic, and if you did not understand the topic, why did you write so much bullshit? Okay, so fundamentally, the part one plays a very important role in getting the interview call from XLRI and all the other institutes which take XAT score. But part two plays a role, if at all, only in the XLRI selection process. It seems that no other institute actually takes into account the part two score. Okay. The second important thing about it is, unlike CAT, there are no sectional time limits. Okay. So there is no section change or something. Like it is like a paper based exam on a computer. Okay, so you can go from verbal to decision making, from decision making to quantitative ability, and come back to verbal and go to decision making. There is absolutely no bar on that. Okay, uh, there is no sectional time limit. However, there are sectional cutoffs. We will talk about it by the end of the session, but there are no sectional time limits, and there is no calculator for any of the sections. That is the biggest difference in terms of the operational part of the exam. Okay, now once this part gets over, okay, once this part gets over, then only you can go to part 2, and once you start part 2, you cannot go back to part 1. Okay, so only when the part 1 is over, the time limit is over, and you have submitted the paper, only then you can go to part 2. And part 2, once you start part 2, you cannot go to part 1. You can submit the paper before time for part 1, but the extra time does not get added to part 2. uh, or even if you finish part 2 earlier than whatever is the time limit, you cannot go back to part 1. Okay, so that's the operational part of the paper. Another important thing to understand is the first section, verbal and logical ability. The logical ability part is not the puzzle based LR that we talk about. It is not that. Okay, uh, that is not what it is. The puzzle based LR actually comes in either decision making, and a little bit of it might come in quantitative ability and data interpretation as well, since there is no clear cut demarcation between the sections, and it is a whole paper. So therefore you really don't know whether the quant based puzzles or the language based puzzles are actually in the quantitative ability or the decision making section. But in verbal ability, when you talk about logical ability, we are talking about critical reasoning, and we are talking about something like, not exactly syllogisms, but yeah, connectives might come into effect. Okay, so inferences and judgments. This is some of the thing we will talk about it in greater detail. But yeah, what we are talking about is uh, logical ability based on linguistics, based on English. We are not talking about arrangement selections or cubes or Venn diagrams here. That might come in quantity, ability, and data interpretation. The first part is essentially critical reasoning and connectives. Uh, that's the whole part. So far as general knowledge is concerned, we have seen almost equal distribution of static GK and current GK, which will mean that some question based on history and geography might actually come. But having said that, the current GK also plays a very important role. The questions that have come from recent news, political, geopolitical news, business news. That has already come. Some awards, rewards have also come in static GK. We have seen some questions from history and some questions from books and authors. Even the books and authors questions that has come generally has come if the book is in news for whatever reason, and so on. The essay part, I will suggest, and I'll tell you how to get those essay topics. But the essay part, generally is a topic which is a very, very general topic. It does not require any special type of background. It does not require it to be commerce or engineer or science background. Again, generally related to geopolitical scenario. That is how the topic has come. Okay, let's go slightly detailed into it, in each of the three sections, and how do I prepare, so that we can strategize ourselves for doing that. Now, what is therefore the first thing different for preparation till now? Okay, if I compare it with snap or nmat, okay, uh, I will say the paper definitely looks slightly more difficult in VRC as well as quanti. Okay, uh, those people who have already done CAT 2020, 2023, they already know that the paper can look difficult and might be more logical and etc. Yes, that is also the type of questions that are expected in ZAT. ZAT has never looked easy. Mind the word, I'm saying, bar saying that it looks difficult. Whether they are difficult, not exactly true. That is exactly same as CAT 2023. Anybody who survived the first shock of looking at the questions and saying, oh my god, it is very tough, after they settle down, they found out that the questions were not really very tough. So same thing. I don't expect questions to be formula based. I don't expect questions to be straightforward. The questions will be logical. The questions will make you think. The good news is that you get lot of time for these questions, because as I said, it is almost 2 hours 45 minutes and so on, so extra 40 45 minutes for a lesser number of questions maybe. So that way, uh, time is not much of a problem, unlike other exams. So this is a very, very important point to note, that ZAD, really you don't need to hurry. uh, you will get enough number of questions which will clear your cutoff. The cutoffs are very less in numerical terms. For example, if you score approximately 33% of the total paper, then generally you will be getting 99 percentile. That's what has been the trend in the. Take it with a sack full of salt always, because you that can always decide to change the difficulty level of the paper. But having said that, if you look at last 5 6 7 years, we have seen that, as a thumb rule, if you are able to do one third of the paper correctly with, let's say, 80 90% accuracy rate, and then you can decide based on your accuracy rate. But yeah, one third of the paper at 80 to 90% accuracy rate should be giving you overall 99.5 percentile, 99 percentile, and so on. So that's how it is. And as I said, time is not much of a problem, as you can see. So for example, if there are, let's say, uh, just taking again a round of number, that 25 questions in quant. Okay, now for 25 questions, if you have given yourself, for example, if it is 165 minutes, let's say, then if you have given yourself somewhere around 50 minutes, out of the 28 questions, if you are able to recognize 7 to 8 questions which you will be doing correctly, then chances are you will be actually getting 99 percentile in the quant section. And therefore, even if I spend approximately 15 20 minutes of time in finding out those 7 to 10 questions, and then do those 7 to 10 questions in approximately rest of the 35 40 odd minutes, then also you generally get on an average 3.5 to 4 minutes of doing time, calculation time per question. So therefore, time is not much of a problem. Same thing goes for RC, same thing goes for decision making. We'll talk about it. uh, and therefore, the first thing first is, uh, don't do a wide range of preparation. That is a mistake that most of the people do. They try to revise everything. Don't do that. In fact, my suggestion will be, don't do anything new. uh, Within the limited period of time, there is approximately a month left for the paper. 7th January is the paper. Concentrate on the specific classes that are happening for ZAD, as well as mocks. If you are giving ZAD specific, uh, if you are giving 5 to 6 mocks of ZAD, and you are taking one class of decision making, one class of maybe the quant section, that should be good enough for the preparation. Do them well, revise them well, analyze them well, and your ZAT preparation should be good enough. Okay, revising any theory for ZAT is not really recommended. Okay, uh, for CAT as well as for ZAT, as well as for any other exam, as well as for GDPI, I have always said that reading is always good. So if you have built good reading habits, if online, if you are reading anything online, that will always be helpful for that. Mocks will play very very important role in building an attitude for the paper. As I said, the paper at the initial glance looks difficult. uh, for example, in RC you might get a poem. Okay, this is a very typical quintessential ZAD, that in RC, instead of a passage, you might actually get a poem, a 10 line 20 line poem. Now that unnerves a little bit because it is slightly out of your comfort zone. That's why that is where the mocks will play a very very important role. So don't ignore the mocks, write at least 4 to 5 mocks, because they build an attitude. Once you start seeing how to approach the paper and how to you know uh, go through it, survive the difficult looking questions, generally on the day of that you are more prepared to face the look of the paper. Okay, so that's where I think you should play very important role. uh, if I look at therefore now section wise for the quant and DI part, uh, concept revision you can always do, but then here we are talking about concepts, we are not talking about formula. Okay, so if you are revising concepts of any chapter, whether it is trigonometry, whether it is permutation combination, whether it is basics of algebra, etc., make sure that you know the basic concept, you understand what it is all about, and do some application based question, not really a formula based approach. Okay, uh, and therefore you will, where will you get them? My straightforward suggestion is that you should rely on the mocks. Okay, so if you have got some mocks from ZAT, you will get previous years ZAT papers from ZAT website itself. If you go to the ZAT online website, uh, in the bottom of the page there is something called exam resources. If you click on exam resources, you will get all the previous years paper of ZAT till 2022. Okay, only the last year's paper is not there, but apart from that, last 5 6 years paper from ZAT is available on the ZAT website itself. You can revise them, you can try to solve them. uh, that should be the quant and DI preparation. uh, Chances of a formula or a process driven question is less. Having said that, we have seen some questions which are directly coming from the concept. Okay, now herein let me tell you one thing. Again, generally it was asked in one of the sessions, I remember, during the CAT preparation also, that if I don't if I tried to do permutation and combination and I failed in it, or if I tried to do trigonometry but I did not understand and therefore I dumped the chapter, should I do that? My suggestion will be again no. Do the basics of trigonometry, functions, permutation combination, quadratic equation, simple equations, percentage profit and loss, time and work, time and distance, all these concepts. uh, you need to understand the concept. I'm still saying, for example, if you know what is sine theta, if you know what is cos theta, the basic definition, if you know what is sine square theta plus cos square theta, maybe that is good enough uh, to do some basic questions of that. Okay, similarly iterative functions, some functions you already know, where a pattern keeps on repeating, and we have done such questions during preparation for CAT also, right? So iterative functions, basic permutation and combination, like you know uh, counting number of possible ways, or uh, in how many different ways can this be done, the basic questions you should be able to do. So even if you are doing level of difficulty 1, I'm not even talking about level of difficulty 2 or level of difficulty 3, uh, that should be good enough to give you the comfort to approach those questions in that. Okay, these questions have really come easy provided you know the very basics of these chapters. So basic algebra, basic geometry, basic arithmetic, trigo, logarithm, functions, PNC. These are some of the things that you should definitely not leave. Uh, do the solved examples, if at all. I mean, let me put it this way: if you have got a standard book, at least do the solved examples. Okay, that should be good enough to clear your quant and DI. Okay, generally the number of questions that has come is anywhere between 25 to 28 for this section. uh, Doing approximately 10 questions have with 80 to 90% accuracy rate has given you 99 percentile in this section. Okay, quant based LR, logical DI, uh, and I am here talking about when I say for this section, the type of questions that came in CAT 2023, or even the type of DI, the quant based DI that you got, or the quant based LR that you got in CAT 2023, that type of question you can still practice. All of them are available in the mocks, all of them are available in the previous year's papers that I mentioned. If you follow them, that should be good enough. Okay. Uh, Please understand that we are not going to get the exact question, but yeah, it builds the attitude. It helps you, it gives you a structure to your thought process. So that is where you should practice that. Okay. So coming back once again. So basically, what I am saying is that even if you can look at last 5 years ZAT papers, even if you give some 5 6 mocks, that should be good enough to give you a fair idea about quant and DI of ZAT. Okay. Coming to the VRC section, now the VRC section is, as I said, not going to be easy. Slightly abstruse topics, because they do give topics from philosophy, psychology, evolution, etc. And I have rarely seen any question which is very data based or direct. Mostly inferential questions, again asking about what strengthens the argument of the passage, what is the tone of the passage, which one of the following is a summary of the passage given, or something like that. So therefore, these type of questions have very frequently come in RC. So you should be ready for that. The length of the passage generally in ZAT has not been very long. It has been in the range of 500 to 600 words. However, one interesting thing about ZAT is that the software they use, generally they give a lot of space to the question. So what happens is the passage requires at least two scrolls. You know, it looks lengthy. So be ready for that. It takes some amount of time to read through the whole passage. It is not very longish, but it is very vertically long. So that way, you might need to keep some time. Generally, if you can give around 4.5 to 5 minutes for that passage, that should be good enough to uh, go through the passage with fair amount of understanding and comprehension. uh, it is very important that you do critical reasoning revision. Critical reasoning is not only for VRC. Critical reasoning plays a very important role in decision making as well. Okay, understanding how to infer, uh, understanding or doing an analytical understanding of the passage will is going to play very important role in that. So critical reasoning revision is very important. If you have not done critical reasoning after CAT is over, it is better to do a revision of critical reasoning for VRC. Now, one very important thing which is a big change from CAT is there are questions on sentence correction. Okay, so grammar. Okay, some questions on grammar, some questions on part of speech, uh, some vocabulary usage based question for fill in the blanks. These are some of the things that definitely at least 2 to 3 questions come in that. Okay, so if you are not a fan of grammar, if you have been wrong in grammar questions, this is something which you might have to dump in that, because that grammar questions, at least I can tell you from my background, I generally am not the greatest confident in grammar, because of the different types of exceptions that happen, or even understanding part of the speech and etc. Generally I have done them wrong. So one thing that I do during that is if I understand the question at the first go and I'm 100% confident, only then I go for sentence correction questions. Otherwise, my history says that I am not really great at sentence correction. So I'm just suggesting that you decide, but you need to know grammar rules. Okay, similarly, you need to understand usage. Okay, so it is very very important that even if the words are synonyms, you need to understand which word is used where. Okay, for example, uh, okay, let me give you an example. Let's say I say that I use two words, obliterate and erase. Okay, so if I say that there was a remark made by a member of parliament which was uh, not taken very well by the rest of the members, and therefore the speaker decided to uh, blank uh, the comment from the official records. Now, do I obliterate the comment or do I erase that comment? Okay, or do I ignore that comment? Okay, now you need to understand the difference between these three words. All of them will look similar in the context given, but you will need to understand which is more formal, which is casual, uh, which one is the correct word to use in that context. Okay, or similarly, let's say if I say that the jury, you know that in North America, in United States, when a case reaches to state court, then most of the time the decision is taken by a jury and not by the judge. Okay, the judge only plays the role of being neutral. So if the case goes on for 2 3 days, the jury is locked up in a room or they are kept in hotels, and they're not allowed to meet uh, their family members and etc. Not allowed to see news, not allowed to read newspapers, not allowed internet. So they are kind of isolated from the rest of the crowd. Now, if I give you the option isolate, sequester, uh, quarantine, okay, or segregate, okay, something like that, and I say that which one will be the correct word to explain that situation for the jury, you will need to understand what is isolation, what is sequester, what is quarantine, what is segregate. Okay, can I say they are quarantined, can I say they are sequestered, can I say they are isolated? Which one will be the correct usage? Though all of them, if you just look at maybe the online dictionary, all of them mean the same thing. Now, that is exactly where I want to ring the bell of caution, that if you are not very comfortable with this, then you should try to avoid such questions, because the questions do not come really very straightforward and easy. So, therefore, this part, that is the sentence correction part and the fill in the blanks part, I strongly recommend that unless and until you are very expert in that, uh, try to avoid these questions. From on my part, whatever students I have seen and met, and also for myself, I have seen most of the students do this set of questions wrong, and therefore to be avoided. Okay, Parajumbles is almost same as cat, whatever preparations you have done, and they should be good enough in whatever you can do. So therefore, again, just coming back to one common question that I get during that preparation, that should I uh, rely on more RC and not do CR, or rely on CR and not do sentence correction, and so on and so forth. Again, my suggestion will be, you have got 1 month of time, revise the concepts, practice well. You really cannot rely on just one topic to clear the cutoff. You will need to have a little bit of RC, a little bit of critical reasoning, a little bit of parajumbles to clear the cutoff, because not all questions from RC will be easy, not all questions of RC will be difficult. Same thing goes for CR and sentence correction and parajumbles. Sentence correction, just because you need to know the core rule, that is where I recommend that you should not jump if you don't know. Other than that, every other question you need to know a little bit mix of this, and that will only clear your cutoff. Okay. Now, this is a very unique part. Does not come in any other exam. It comes only in XAT. This is the decision making part of XAT. These are something like micro case studies. They give you a small passage. There will be some story about in a factory, some labor dispute issues, or maybe a female finding it difficult to manage professional and personal life, or maybe an ethical story, and so on and so forth. We will have a detailed class on decision making and some examples and strategy of decision making on 15, that is next Friday. But yeah, the point is, these are kind of micro case studies. Now, so they very clearly say that none of the answers are wrong. However, they take what is supposed to be the best answer. Okay. Now, the problem in this is that uh, if you do not have the mind and the awareness of a 21st century youth, then uh, there will be problems in clearing this set of questions, because uh, XAT as a paper is very, very modern. XAT as a paper is very, very liberal. XAT as a paper is very, very modernistic. So therefore, if you come from a slightly uh, suburban or a rural or a traditional background with slightly more I will say conservative mindset, then chances are that in this section you might find it difficult, because two or three options will look very, very close. Okay. So therefore, you need to practice a lot of decision making questions to understand how the ZAT mindset works. As I said, we will do it on 15th. We will take up some examples to make you understand what are the pitfalls in this. But yeah, generally, I'm giving you upfront that you need to have a 21st century modern, liberal, secular, youthful mindset. Okay. If you come with a 1990s mindset or a 1970s mindset, uh, some you come with thought process of some of the most popular super hit movies that has come out in recent times, then you will not be able to clear this part of the paper. Okay. I know that is extreme, the example, and I know you have understood which movie I'm talking about, but yeah, there are chances that if you have such mindsets, you will not be able to clear the paper at all. Okay. Now, the problem is that this is that part of the paper which looks the easiest, because the passages are small, the stories are very relatable. This is from your day to day life, and therefore uh, almost all the students attempt all the questions. Okay. Now, this is the most danger part. People generally score very high as well as very low. I have rarely seen people scoring the average marks. Okay. That very, very rare that people score an average of the 2 marks or something like that. So the normal curve is very skewed. uh, if you look at the attempts part, people generally score very high. In fact, there is a high chance that this is the most scoring section among the three sections in part one. Okay. However, people also score very less. I have seen that happening, and therefore, I have a strong recommendation that you should not be very enthusiastic about it. Please practice for the next 20 odd days. See whether you are getting it correct. Discuss it with a mentor about the approach to this section. Only then be ballistic about it. Don't go attempting all questions. You might really lose out a lot of marks in negatives if you are not careful about yourself. Okay, in fact, this is more like a mirror. I mean, most of the time I have seen this part of the paper. So for example, when it is ethical issues or social norms, value systems, and etc., uh, this is like a mirror. You will understand it yourself whether you are a modern youth or not. uh, and that day is not the day to challenge yourself. The time to challenge yourself is now, so that on the day of that you do it well. So that is what I want to discuss about decision making. We'll talk about some strategies, as I said, on 15th, but I strongly recommend again that you please download the previous year's papers from the XAT website. Repeating once again for those people who have joined late, go to the XAT online website. In the bottom half of the website, there is a link called exam resources, which gives you, I think, from XAT 2018 to XAT 2022. Only the last year's paper is missing. Otherwise, there are 5 years paper. Download that paper. Download those papers. Go through them. See the decision making questions. See all the questions. You will get a fair idea about what type of questions come in that. uh, the GK and the essay part. Okay, now let me quickly talk about it. Very, very low scoring section. So if you ask me what is the cutoff for GK, while there is no cutoff for GK in the selection process for the shortlist at least, but yeah, I have rarely seen people scoring more than 4 or 5 questions correct. So GK is something which is really not a very high scoring section. uh, Scoring very high might help you only in the XLRI selection process. As I said, some exceptional scores has been asked in the interview room कि आपने तो बहुत अच्छा किया जीके में, क्या पढ़ाई करते हो, or something like that. But yeah, uh, generally 5 questions out of 20-25 odd questions that come should be good enough as a good score. Where do I prepare from them? Again, I generally don't suggest that you start preparing GK using a compendium or something like that. So any online resource for so maybe a PDF that you can get of the recent uh, Manorama yearbook or Penguin yearbook that is going to come for 2024. Something like that should be good enough to prepare for the GK section. Same thing goes for the essay section. So I'll give you a typical uh, essay topic that comes in that. It can be something like ethics is very, very important for business. It can be something like you know too much patriotism can lead to jingoism. All such topics have come in recent times. Again, you can see those topics in the previous year's papers. Please remember, you need to type the essay. So that's how it works. Again, I would not really recommend that you actively prepare for it, but yes, whatever topics you can gather from the previous year's papers, and maybe from any mentoring that you are having, uh, practice writing it, show it to a mentor, discuss with him. But that is good enough for this GK plus essay section. Please don't spend too much time on it. I repeat once again, it is not very clear what role it plays in the final XLRI selection process, but for no other institute it plays an important role. Even in the XLRI selection process, only a handful of students have been challenged on the GK plus essay part. I'm not saying you should not do it, or you should not prepare, or you should do it bad. But having said that, don't break too much of your head on this. even if you do fairly well, it seems that it does not play a very considerable role in the selection process. So that's how it is. Go to the ZAT website and very clearly you will be able to do. Last words that I want to say about ZAT. Uh, these are some of the myths which I really want to break. One rumor that goes around about ZAT is that the quant is very tough. Okay, uh, quant is quant looks tough, but you have already got a preparation for that, right? You know in CAT 2023 that the quant can look tough. Okay, same thing goes for ZAT. The quant may look tough. The first three questions will definitely look tough, but once you recover from that shock, and once you start slowly and steadily reading the questions, you slowly and steadily start solving the questions, you will see that quant is not really tough. Definitely not tough. In fact, if you look at last 3 years paper, you will see that anybody, irrespective of background, whether your quant is uh, good, average, not so good, and so on, anybody could have done at least 7 questions out of those 28 questions. Okay, and if you are actually average to high prepared, you will be able to do 10 questions. So the challenge is not uh, the toughness of the questions. The challenge is to find out those 7 to 10 questions which you can solve, and you have got enough time for that. So uh, never for once even think that the quant is very tough. uh, it looks tough. It always looks tough in the exam scenario. You already experienced that in CAT 2023, so therefore I don't think it should come as a surprise to you anymore. uh, it is not tough. It looks tough. You need to settle down. You need to recover from that, you know uh, shock. And the moment you are starting to read the questions and you say that, okay, I have got 3 minutes of time for this question, uh, most of the quant questions don't look tough anymore. So therefore this is a very big myth. If you are not applying to CAT thinking that quant is tough, this is not true at all. I am not ready for CAT. I was not ready for CAT, so therefore I am not ready for that as well. uh, okay, if you have not prepared for the full year, then obviously I don't know how to say that. But if you are saying because CAT has not gone off well after 1 year of fair preparation, and therefore you will not be able to clear that, that is not true at all. Okay, especially because as I say, the decision making section does not really require preparation in terms of learning a theory. It requires a preparation of preparing yourself as a human being. So therefore a large chunk of the paper does not really require a preparation in terms of uh, reading a book, reading some theory, and so on and so forth. So that is the good part. Number two is that you really have got 1 month of time. Okay, so there is enough amount of preparation that you can do. So therefore, even if after fair amount of preparation your CAT did not go well, ZAT is actually a lifesaver. Okay, so therefore uh, CAT did not go off well, how will my ZAT go well is a myth. You have enough time to prepare for that, and if you can handle that, you should be ready for that on 7th of January. So don't even think about it for once. Very less number of B schools taking that. This is the biggest myth. That is not true at all. In the first slide I showed you that many institutes are taking that score. In fact, almost 300 odd institutes are taking that score, including some of the best schools in India. So there is enough number of chances. XLRI itself has two fantastic courses, that is the BM course and the HR course. XIM has 2 3 courses which are world class. uh, if you look at 4 IMI, IMT Ghaziabad, TAPI, then Great Lakes, and etc., they are really good schools. And if your CAT has not gone off well, this is like a lifesaver. As I said, it will come back as a savior to you. Please apply. Don't even think about it. Placements are less than IIMs. This is like the biggest lie that goes. Please understand that there are 21 IIMs right now, uh, and XLRI will be better both in terms of quality of students and faculty, curriculum, and placements. Uh, Better than at least, and I say that with an alumni confidence, because I regularly attend their alumni sessions and meet the students, and I've always been a part of accelerate discussion. It will be better than at least 15 of the IIMs right now. Okay. In fact, XLRI is seen at par, if not better, than IMB, IMC, and IIM Lucknow. Okay. So maybe an Ahmedabad gets a booster generally because, it is seen as a classic IIM Ahmedabad type of a thing. But other than that, IIM Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Bangalore, Lucknow, and XLRI is really, really seen at par. Okay, and there is not much that differentiates between these colleges. So therefore, don't for even 1 second think about it. XLRI has got fantastic placements. Almost all great recruiters go to IIMs. There is absolutely no second thoughts about it. So have no doubt about your mind. Please go ahead, and write the paper and apply to XLRI. Okay. Just one last FAQ to clear. While applying for XAT, there is an option to apply to XLRI courses. Okay, and you have to pay 200 rupees per XLRI course that you want to apply, which is the business management course and the HR course. You can also apply to the other courses provided you are eligible. So please check out the eligibility criteria. For example, there is a course called GMP, which is the equivalent of the executive course for XLRI, which is like people with more than 5 years of experience, or FPM, which is the basic PhD course, and etc. So if you're eligible for them, you can apply. But yeah, I mean, these are the two flagship courses. That is the business management course and the HR course. These are the two courses. You need to pay 200 rupees per uh, uh, course each, and you can apply to XLRI directly. You don't have to apply separately. The last myth and that I want to clear, for the last few years, XAT has something called a penalty for not attempting some questions. Okay. And people will come back to me and asking. So let me give you the clarification. And I am following only whatever XAT has said for the last few days. Is that for every correct answer, you get 1 marks. For every wrong answer, you get a negative 0.25, sorry. And for every unattempted questions above and beyond 8 questions, okay, in each section, which means if there are 8 questions unattempted, that there is no negative marking. However, if there is a 9 or 10 questions or 11 questions are unattempted, then for every question unattempted, you get a negative of 0.1. Okay. And therefore, should I attempt all questions? Should I attempt, because I have to avoid this negative marking and so on and so forth? Should I do that or not? Let me remind you, for going wrong, you get a negative 0.25. For unattempting, you get 0.1. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to go wrong, or do you want to leave it unattempted? It is always better to leave it unattempted than to attempt and go wrong. So therefore, have no second thoughts in your mind. पहली बात तो 8 क्वेश्चन तक कोई नेगेटिव मार्किंग नहीं है. 9th या 10th क्वेश्चन अनअटेम्प्टेड में जाके आपका 0.1 कटेगा. तो क्यों चिंता कर रहे हो? आई मीन, नहीं आता है तो छोड़ना है, क्योंकि छोड़ देते हो तो 0.1 कटता है, गलत करते हो तो 0.25 कटता है. And therefore, no brainer. If you don't know a question, if you have no clue, leave the question. No second thoughts in your mind. Don't attempt it for the sake of attempting it. Okay, the strategy should be very, very clear. That these are some of the things that if you keep in mind, uh, that should not be a problem at all, and you should be able to do good about it. uh, this is the strategy part from my side. One thing that I want to do is, because the decision making section is very, very new, we will do a session on decision making on 15th same time, same channel, wherein we will discuss some previous year's question of XAT, and I will try to give you the type of strategy that are there which helps you to clear the section, and what type of mindsets and etc. that you need to have to clear that part. If uh, okay, without sounding, or at the rather at the cost of sounding slightly uh, anti villages or anti rural type of a thing, if you have been born and brought up in a very urban liberal secular setup, uh, non sexist setup, then clearing decision making is slightly easier. However, if you have been born and brought up in a slightly conservative setup, and you have been brought up with lot of conservative mindset, then you might need to practice a little bit more of decision making, because as I said, XAT is very very modernistic. So therefore, that's the only part. We will discuss about that on 15th in much greater detail. In the meantime, I will suggest that you download the question papers from the XAT website, go through them, prepare your answers. Maybe we will discuss some of them, so that you can get a fair idea about what exactly is that decision making all about. Okay, that's it from my side. Suchandra, any last words, anything that you want to discuss?
Yeah, thank you, Dhruva sir. It was, as always, it was a very interesting session. And as mentioned, with the, I will start off slightly with those myths parts. So those, there are not less number of B schools. I would request all to visit our web portal. Campus Vitra has got a list of B schools, top B schools who are accepting the XAT scores, right? So nothing to worry about it. Your options are there for you, whole list of options. And we have our list of mock tests, which has been revamped with new sets of questions, which includes GK also, and few sets on decision making. On next Friday, we are going to have one interesting session on decision making, which would be primarily, as Sarah said, would be situation based questions, but those are very tricky ones, good to handle kind of questions. So with this, and lastly, I would like to mention uh, VIT School, a prominent B school of our country. This program, or this session has been done with the help of them in association with VITV School, and who also accepts the XAT score, right? So with this, uh, thank you all. Good night, and see you next week,
Yeah, and
Friday.
just a reminder that 10th is the last date to apply for XAT. So don't miss out on the date. And my suggestion is tonight or tomorrow, please apply to XAT if you have not applied.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.